I knew something was not right. Something was not okay. I actually called 911 within that time because I felt like everything was kind of closing in on me. I dropped the phone and I collapsed. And then I got up. I remember actually standing up and looking around, and I looked down at my body that was still laying there. And at this time, I wasn't really 100% sure what had happened exactly. I just knew that I'm looking at my body and, and I'm experiencing this moment. And so I walked around the corner to the living room, and that's where the news had been on because it was January 20th, 2016, which was the inauguration of Trump. And I remember before this happened on the news, there was a lot of, riots and arguing and things like that was going on. So when I went around the corner, the news was completely frozen. It wasn't moving whatsoever. Now, this might have been the TV was frozen, which I could understand, except for the fact that I looked outside and nothing else was moving.
But I
Right.
was intrigued with the freezing of the TV. I wonder if that was something that was, as a part of your experience. It makes sense if everything outside was frozen as well. What did you see outside that was frozen? Was it like a car that sort of just stopped in the middle of the street, or?
No, there was actually a bunny that was up and not moving. Like it was up on 2 feet kind of thing, as it was supposed to move, but you could clearly see just looking at the eyes and looking at everything, it was not moving in any way, shape, or form. And that was really interesting. And the other thing that was interesting is that the bunny had a completely different vibration as well in terms of the color that it wasn't your typical, color that you would see in a bunny. My dog was the same. I had a yellow lab, and I can tell you that the color that I was seeing on Nova at the time was not a yellow lab color. And she didn't move either, which is also kind of interesting. I never thought of that. She was next to me, and then she was there like the whole time, as if, statue kind of thing. And that was really trippy for me too, is especially to look at the TV and know there's chaos, and then all of a sudden it's just no one's moving, nothing's happening, as if things got shut off. And the first thought I actually had, the first original thought, because I was not spiritually enlightened at this point, was that we got nuked. That's what I thought. I thought, okay, this is it. It just happened so fast, you didn't even realize it. And so I think that's what was so difficult about getting me to realize that I was alive. And that's when I realized that the colors also didn't look the way that they did. And so at that moment, I realized that I was in a different space. And the moment I accepted that was the moment that all the feelings came. All of a sudden, I knew I was safe. I knew I was okay. I knew that whatever was coming next was going to be okay as well. And when I say safe and okay, I can honestly tell you that there isn't a feeling in my life that I've ever experienced that came close to that level of security. Like, I knew everything was okay. And so I sat down in the chair for whatever was coming next. I had no idea. I watched Lost. I had no idea, there are a plethora of different experiences that could have came next. And so basically I called my dog over because I wanted my dog, that was my best friend, whatever was going to happen next. And about that time of acceptance is when the EMTs were speaking to me. They were yelling at that point. And then after I was awake at that point, I could not accept that I was awake. It took about 3 hours, and they stayed for 3 hours to try to convince me that I was still alive. It was an insanely powerful experience.
I had an accident in which I drowned. And the reason this accident happened is my oldest sister, who was close to 4, and like we already mentioned, I was close to 3, decided to let's go play in the patio. And then we went to the patio, and in this patio there was a big tank for collecting water for hand washing clothes. And we found a ball, and my sister said, oh, let's play cash across the tank. Oh, okay. We climbed, and she sat on the surface that was flat. She was a little safer. I was in the other side. There was a thin edge, and I'm sitting there just with my legs folded, like very precariously in this tank. And my sister grabbed the ball. She threw the ball and didn't apply enough force, and it fell on the water. It was floating in the tank. And then I thought I could grab it. So I leaned forward, and the moment I tried to grab it, it rolled. Then I lost my balance and fell in the tank. And the first feeling, John, was the sense that this water was frigid cold. People have the misconception that because I'm from Colombia, I come from hot weather country, but Bogota is high up in the Andes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, this is like 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
So the water in this tank probably was about 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So of course the first shock was like the water being frigid cold. And the next feeling was why I cannot breathe. And that's when the terror came. Like, I had never had my head underwater. So I didn't know that if you fall in the water, you drown. And imagine now I'm in this state of absolute panic. Why I cannot breathe. I just wanted to get out of this tank. How can I get out of here? And then my sister is out there trying to get me, but I sank in the tank. And then when I am in this state of absolute horror, John, this is the part that is just absolutely amazing. From that horror in just a blink, I went to a state of complete peace and serenity and calmness. And wow, I didn't need to breathe. I didn't need to run. I didn't need to escape. I didn't need to do anything. It was just like, I feel so well. And the last thing I heard, besides there was all this background noise and all that, was that my heart was pounding so hard in my chest. Imagine when you're so scared, and I could hear it in my head, like boom, 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 boom. It was so scary when everything went peaceful. I experienced complete silence. That I crave this silence for the rest of my life. So later in my life, I will hide. I will go on closets under the bed, and later in chapels. I wanted that silence back. The other contrast was that when I fell in the tank, this area was completely made of cement. It had a roof. It was very early in the morning. So this space itself was very dark. So the last thing I saw with my eyes open when I was drowning was the darkness of the space. And it was when I saw light. And it was a light that was coming from below. So it's like, wow, now there is light. And the light was able to illuminate the whole watery surrounding. And now I'm just immersed in this light. And then imagine now I am in this absolute silence, peace, light. And then I started to see bubbles. And these bubbles were suspended in the water, and they were surrounded by light. And then imagine being this childlike, like, whoa, this is cool. Then I started to chase the bubbles. And it was when I turned around and I saw a body suspended in the water, floating there in the water. And I'm like, whoa, at that moment I had the clear realization that is my body. And it was not even the sense of, there was no fear, none of that. It was just the sense of familiarity, like, oh, that's my body. Kind of like, oh, that's normal. And then it came the next contrast. And it was that I was born as a very sick child. And sometimes we will wonder why a child will be sick and all this. But that was the way it had to be, because I always say, if I would have been born as a very healthy, a child that is feeling good, then I would not have that sense of well-being that I experienced. So what happened, I didn't even know how it was to feel well. And the moment I am in this state of absolute well-being, I look at that body and I say, I'm not going back there. And I turn around, and this is the other thing. At that moment, I knew I could make the decision of leave the body behind. and I walk and I turn around and left the body. And it's when I started to see flowers that were blooming from nowhere. And it's like, oh, it was absolutely beautiful. This is so incredible. And then it was when I was picked up by flowers. So it was like this sense, even the sense of dimension disappeared. And now I am being carried by these flowers. And I am just there. And I always give the analogy that it's like going back to the womb, where you don't have to do absolutely anything. You're just being done. And I'm just being carried and relaxed and just in a state of bliss. This is the only thing I could just say, that just feeling incredibly well.
March 27th, 1979, I was sent on a medical evacuation, or a medevac, on a small plane, a twin engine plane called a Piper Aztec. And this plane flew into bad weather in winter, which we in Canada know about bad weather in winter. The first one engine, they think it's the air filters froze over, so one engine stopped, and then the other engine stopped of the twin propeller plane. The pilot really, really heroically wrestled with it, trying to do like a guided belly landing on the surface of a frozen lake rather than crashing into the trees, because it's all northern Ontario. It's like northern Quebec. It's all forested and lakes. You know, if you go into the trees, you're a goner. So he was trying to get us guided crash belly landing on the ice. And we actually heroically, thank you, Jerry was our pilot. He got us down in the ice, and we would have been okay. And the plane's on its belly skidding across the ice. We would have been okay if the ice was thick enough. And what happened is, as soon as the plane came to a stop, the ice very quickly broke and the plane nosedived and sunk down into very deep water because of the strong current. And the ice never freezes over there, and it's treacherous in the summer and in the winter. And we had to very, very quickly get out of the plane as the plane was sinking. And the pilot, the nurse, and I managed to get out. We tried to get the patient out. We were unable to. She unfortunately went down with the plane and perished. And then I had to swim a very long distance to the closest shore through a strong current of Devil's Gap. This is sub-zero weather in winter. I'm wearing a heavy winter parka, heavy winter clothes, winter boots. They're pulling me down like lead weights into the water. They say it was about 200 yards I had to swim. It was a miracle I was even able to swim that distance. Through the grace of God at that age, you know how God prepares us for things in advance and we don't even realize it, God or spirit, whatever we want to call it. My favorite exercise routine was swimming laps at the pool. So I was an incredibly strong swimmer, which came very much in handy after the plane crash. So anyway, but I had my first adult near-death experience during this plane crash. It started before the plane crashed. It started when the plane was going down. So if you've ever been in a propeller plane, you know they're really loud and really noisy. You can hear the engines, right? And this was such a small plane. I was only like 10 feet from either engine. So when the one engine stopped, I noticed right away. I looked up from my patient and because the noise had gone away and you could see the propeller stopping. And then when the other propeller engine stopped, again, the noise went away and I could see it stopping, and immediate reaction. We're going down, and it was like we were in a storm and it was being buffeted and the pilot's trying to steer the plane. And it was really clear we were crashing. And my immediate reaction, like a reflex, was intense fear and panic. And it just was like a reflex. It came out of my heart. This thought, oh God, help, I'm going to die. And I think that was close enough to a prayer that this is when spirit responded and my near-death experience began. All of a sudden, we're still going down. The plane hasn't crashed yet. This force field of peace starts descending upon me, and it's literally pushing down all of my fear. And I start feeling that incredible, complete calm, complete peace. I was no longer afraid. And I heard an inner voice, a clear inner voice. And before that time, I'd never heard inner voices. And it had a masculine tone, this inner voice. And the voice said, be still and know that I am God. I am with you now and always. And with those words came this just profound spiritual vibration. And so I remained in this sort of state of, I don't know what to call it, peace, feeling the presence of God. As the plane finally, we avoided the trees, we had the belly landing, then the nosedive, and then I'm in the water. And the pilot started shouting, try to swim to shore, try to swim to shore. I'm sorry, he started saying, try to get on the ice, try to get on the ice, getting my story mixed up. The voice in my head, on the other hand, now started talking to me again and said, swim to shore. And I remember I was inexperienced in intuitive experiences and higher guidance. What I did is I started mentally arguing with the voice. I went, no, I took lifeguarding. They tell you if you have a boating accident, don't swim to shore. You'll drown when you swim to shore. No, I'm going to try and get on the ice. And so, I'm embarrassed, but that's truly what happened. Hopefully, at this point in my life, I have learned the importance of listening to our higher guidance. But anyway, so I didn't listen to my inner voice. Instead, I tried to get on the ice, but the ice was too thin and I was getting more and more tired. The voice repeats, swim to shore. Finally, the third time the voice said, swim to shore, I finally listened. I surrendered. Thank God I finally did, because that's what saved my life. And I started swimming to shore. Now, it was a really long and a really difficult swim, and I went under several times, got lake water in my lungs, kicked with all of my strength to get my mouth above surface again, and then would stroke by stroke keep swimming. So somewhere in the process of swimming to shore is when my near-death experience deepened. And what happened was I once again heard that loud roaring noise, the same as I heard in my Kundalini awakening. And I felt myself lifted out of my body the same time as I heard that noise. And I found myself, there I was, 20 or 30 feet above my body. But what was interesting this time was that my consciousness seemed to be two places at the same time, because my body down there was still very actively trying to swim to shore, desperately trying to swim to shore. So I sort of compare it to a split screen TV where my consciousness was two places at the same time. And the little image on the split screen TV, a little bit of my consciousness was still in my physical body that was desperately trying to swim to shore. Most of my consciousness was now above my body. And then the majority of my consciousness rose even higher. And I went into this place or state or realm, it's hard to have the words to describe it, that was filled with light and filled with love. So it was a dark and stormy day outside for my physical body. But for the rest of my consciousness, where I had gone to was filled with this soft, glistening, beautiful light, like what you see at the top of clouds as a plane is going up and about to break up into the bright sunlight above. You see that glistening white all around you. This is what it was like visually for me on the other side in the white light realm. For a few moments, I did see sort of a face of light, and then it sort of faded into like the cloud-like periphery. But the most powerful aspect was the love that I was feeling. I was feeling the most powerful, unconditional, pure, total love that I had ever felt. My Kundalini related experience on a scale of 1 to 10 would make that a 2, and this was a 10. I just felt such complete love. And I knew things. It's not like a voice explained it to me or anything. It's just somehow I knew things when I was in this realm of love and light. I absolutely knew beyond a doubt. It's like my soul knew, or my soul recognized, or it was transmitted to me. I don't know. I just knew. I knew that love that I was feeling was the love of our higher power, or what I had been raised to call God. And what I was experiencing God to be was not at all like what I had been taught. It was not an old man with a long white beard sitting on a throne judging me if you've been good, if you've been bad. That was not what I was actually experiencing at all. What I was actually experiencing, God or the higher power, whatever word you want to use, to be, was this like an infinite force that is infinitely intelligent and underlying, creating, sustaining, all at the same time, all of creation, past, present, future. And it is incredibly loving, loves everyone and everything unconditionally. Doesn't matter what religion we are, what color we are, no religion, no color, none of that matters. It's like we're all loved. It's like we're all like children of the same one loving, intelligent force.